Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Mark. I am Tracy Peterson-Wertnan, Chief Financial Officer here at Lake Country Power. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight on such a gorgeous evening, talking about family. Lake Country Power is a family, but I want to give a shout out to my mom and dad who are here tonight, so it's kind of special for me. And it is my pleasure to be here to review the financial highlights from this past year, as well as take a brief look at the year 2024. Our annual independent audit was performed by Brady Martz and Associates, based out of Grand Forks, North Dakota. Once again, Lake Country Power received a clean opinion on the annual review of our accounting practices and procedures. Brady Martz affirmed that we are in full compliance with loan covenants and financial requirements set by our primary lender, the Rural Utilities Service, or RUS. And while Mark has mentioned challenges do remain, Lake Country Power continues to do all we can to maintain our fiscal and financial health, with you, our member owners, the priority. I would like to take a few minutes to share an overview of our 2023 financial results. The graph on this slide represents the sources of 2023 operating revenue of just over $106 million. And while the revenue dollars may vary a bit from year to year, this visual really doesn't change much. Lake Country Power is a cooperative that serves a largely residential member base, and as such, that's where most of our revenue and kilowatt hour sales are derived each year. If you can't see on this graph, 75% of our sales from 2023 were from our residential members. Our kilowatt hour sales, as you can imagine, are quite weather dependent, and as we all know, 2023 was an unusual year for weather. From a cool July to record-setting warmth in December, 2023 really was one for the record books. We saw a decrease of about 6% in overall kilowatt hour sales from 2022 to 2023. And this was represented in our sales across the board, our residential sales, commercial, our general service sales, to our load management programs. With all of that said, at the end of the year, everything considered, we made the decision to defer or shift $5 million of our 2023 revenue and move it forward into 2024. We met all RUS requirements to make this deferral. I'll touch on a couple of those in a moment. It was approved by our board of directors and the Rural Utilities Service in December. This next graphic indicates how revenue noted on the previous slide was used in 2023. The overall cost of electric service was slightly under $99 million. Our purchase power cost was $53 million, which is over 50% of our total cost for the year. The cost of wholesale power decreased around $4 million in 2023 from the prior year. This was largely the result of lesser kilowatt hour purchases based on our lower sales, and about a $2.8 million power cost credit we received from Great River Energy, our wholesale power supplier. Our local operating expenses decreased about $1.9 million in 2023. We experienced only one major storm event day in our service territory last year. Contrast that to the 4 major storms we experienced in 2022. It was a vast difference. Reimbursement from the state of Minnesota last year for a portion of those 2022 storm expenses had favorable impact on our operating expenses, not to mention lesser overtime, material, and equipment costs that are associated with a normal storm outage year. As Mark mentioned, our right-of-way maintenance is extremely important, and that accounted for about $5.5 million of our 2023 operating expenses. These investments in right-of-way are perhaps one of the most impactful things we can do related to outage metrics and are a very important part of maintaining and improving our reliability for you, our members. Depreciation of our utility equipment, along with interest expense on our infrastructure, such as the poles, the wires, transformers, substations, meters, accounted for around $19 million of our overall expenses. Depreciation and interest remain a large and constant source of expense from year to year for us, and represent direct ownership costs in your electrical distribution system. LCP does borrow a percentage of its construction work plan each year. As I'm sure you're all aware, interest rates have taken a jump and not in the right direction. They've more than doubled over the past couple of years. These rate increases will have impact on interest expense related to new borrowing for us moving forward. Overall, 2023 was a favorable financial year for us. This graphic that you're looking at represents the split between our operating and our non-operating margins. We closed the year with $12.1 million in total margin. Around 7.6% of that was related to our operations. The remaining $4.5 million, the remaining $4.5 million was non-operating. About $3.3 million of that was patronage capital from Great River Energy. We are a member of GRE, and just as we allocate our margins back to our members, GRE allocates margins to LCP and its other members as well. Which brings us to the next slide, capital credits. For those of you who aren't real familiar, capital credits are unique to cooperatives and represent your share of ownership in Lake Country Power. In 2023, we paid back $2.5 million in member equity through capital credit retirements. Our general retirement in December was right around $1.5 million. $1 million of that was directly from Lake Country Power. The other $500,000 was GRE patronage that we've received and in turn pass on to our membership. All active members received a retirement in December. The remaining $1 million in capital credits retired last year were discounted retirements to individual member estates. Our long-term goal has been to achieve and remain on a 25-year rotation cycle for capital credits. And after aggressively retiring for many years, we have reached that 25-year goal and plan to continue on that path moving forward. Looking at our 2024 budget, our budget reflects our priorities and represents how we are looking out for our members, our cooperative community, and the local communities that we serve. I too am happy to share that there is no planned 2024 rate increase for our residential and commercial members. The last couple of years, we've had a different story to tell. We are projecting operating revenues of just over $116 million on energy sales of around 735 million kilowatt hours. We will be using the $5 million in deferred revenue that I referred to earlier to help us get through this year. With the temperatures we've experienced so far in 2024, we likely will need every dollar of that deferral. Total cost of electric services budgeted at about $111 million. This budget includes a slight purchase power increase of just over 2% from Great River Energy. Higher interest rates are incorporated into this year's budget as they relate to interest expense on new borrowing. And as Mark mentioned, we continue to experience increased material and construction costs, although not at the rates we've seen over the past several years. Our board, our staff, and employees remain dedicated to doing all we can to continue managing these challenges to ensure we are providing safe and reliable service to you, our members, and as affordably as possible. For those who are interested, we do provide a financial summary in the monthly newsline, as well as detailed financial statements in the Member Center section of our website.